today I got into my car and I almost just went shopping, but then I turned around and I was like, hey, I don't actually have any money. Where am I going to go shopping? And I had planned to do a video about a very boring act called the Bayh-Dole Act. I'm going to eat some PB&J Bobos, hopefully. So I've been reading about this thing called the Bayh-Dole Act. It's an act. It was passed in 1980 by Bob Dole and Evan Bayh. Bob Dole is obviously the senator from Kansas. Evan Bayh, here, I don't know who Evan Bayh is. Let me Google who Evan Bayh is. Former governor of Indiana. He's a Democrat. Bob Dole was a Republican. I guess Evan Bayh is still alive. But anyway, so they passed this. They have a act, and it was bipartisan since it was like both of them, Bayh and Dole. So it was enacted the Bayh-Dole. So it's about, before I get into the specifics of what Bayh-Dole is about, there's a couple of things I should mention. It's about intellectual property. Patents are a form of intellectual property, and they're actually, I learned this at the AAAS meeting when I attended this past February. Patents are rights enshrined to the people under the Constitution, and it's actually in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8, the U.S. Constitution. The first article is about the legislative branch. The second article is about executive branch, and the third article is about judicial branch. Because it's in Article 1, that's Article 1's about Congress, it tells you that it relates to what Congress does. I found this section that talks about it, and it's Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8, and it says, to promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. So I think that's pretty cool that intellectual property is like in the Constitution. That's from Stanford. Stanford's website has like this one page on patents and copyright. So in the US, there's several ways that innovations happen. One way is obviously through industry. Another way is through academic research that creates innovations that can be used in industry. And so whenever technology goes from academia to the industry, that's known as technology transfer. And I also looked up technology transfer on Wikipedia. And technology transfer, this is what they said. Technology transfer, also called transfer of technology, is the process of transferring technology from the person or organization that owns or holds it to another person or organization in an attempt to transform inventions and scientific outcomes from the lab, arguably, into new products and services that benefit society. So Bayh-Dole relates directly to technology transfer. I found a website from Drexel that talks about, so the other thing is Bayh-Dole has a Twitter account, and it's very high profile, and it tweets about how we should save Bayh-Dole every day, but it just talks about it as Bayh-Dole, and it didn't actually explain what it is. So I had to actually click through, and I found this video, and it talked about Bayh-Dole. After several weeks, I finally understood what Bayh-Dole is, and I feel like that's part of the problem is, why can't they just publish an explainer tweet every week that explains what Bayh-Dole is? Like, is it because the people invested in working on Bayh-Dole are already experts? So that's why I decided I would do a video on Bayh-Dole, because apparently it's going to go away. And what the Bayh-Dole Act is it helps universities, nonprofit research institutions, and small businesses to own, patent, and commercialize inventions that are developed under federally funded research programs. Drexel says that Bayh-Dole motivated universities to be involved in tech transfer by creating a uniform patent policy. Oh, and I was going to eat a grape thing because I'm feeling kind of hangry this morning. I was going to do a mukbang, which is where you eat and talk, but I checked I wanted to get the new Tostito Cheez-It. They made a large, Taco Bell made a large Cheez-It, and they put it in a Crunch Wrap. And it's $5.99, or it's like allegedly $5.99, but it's actually like not $5.99. And then I went to order it on Uber Eats, and it was at the meal. I thought it was $8.99, but on the app on Uber Eats it's like $10.99. Does anyone else feel like super gaslit by economists lately? Because I was watching the economic report that came out yesterday. because as I'm recording this, today is June 13th, and yesterday was the Fed meeting, and there was also like Jerome Powell was talking, and he chose not to lower the interest rates, which are at quite high right now. But um, someone was talking about the inflation, and they were like, "Oh yeah, fast food costs are really high, but the cost is due to labor." And I was like, "The cost of fast food is due to labor when food prices have been going up so much." It was kind of mind-boggling to me that they were talking about like fast food workers in that way. And like for me, I don't often have money for fast food, especially running a small business. But it's like I can't. This idea of like fast food workers' wages and money that they earn from literally working being like creating inflation, I don't think that's true. I think that inflation does not come from fast food, although the job growth in the job growth that has happened probably I believe in the probably in the last year or so a lot of it has come from the hospitality and fast food industry. So if you want to be happy that we have jobs, then you also have to be happy that we have fast food workers. And like I was doing some math because I'm applying to jobs right now. And I tried to calculate how much like the average Taco Bell employee makes like a in a year. And it's like $31,000, which honestly, I would love to make $31,000 in a year in this economy. But it is really quite low. And then when you think about how much minimum wage is not really like a living wage. So like, and I did another deep dive into this and I was like, why is the minimum wage so low? And I realized that's because it's the minimum that you're like need to like actually like live and everything. But I don't think, and I read that wages have outpaced inflation by 2%, but actually we haven't changed our rates in the past 2 years. So all of this to say, I'm tired of being gaslit by economists and like economic experts about like what's happening in the labor market and like what's not happening in the labor market. So I'm making an effort to actually learn about these topics. I already knew about them, but it's like every time I try to talk about them, it's just like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, you don't really need any expertise to talk about like the labor market. Like, first of all, I have not only this job, but I have like two other jobs. So that alone is like pretty qualifying, I would say. So, anyway, I decided I'm going to do the hard thing and engage and think about topics that I find hard. And Bayh-Dole is one of those. The economy, definitely one of those things. And I have a lot of thoughts on it that's kind of, and we do also do like financial writing as part of Fancy Comma. But because we talk a lot about science policy, I wanted to do a video about Bayh-Dole and just about Bayh-Dole. But all of these things are so related. Like technology transfer in universities is directly related to industry. And it's also related to, you know, who gets to profit from the technologies that they create. And like, yeah, I guess fast food workers have nothing to do with technology transfer, but they kind of do in a way. As someone that is informed about the world, I don't want to feel like I am like creating like a promoting capitalism every time I want to go get like a taco. I'm tired of being gaslit about the labor market because like I have two jobs, two W2 jobs, two like employee jobs, and then I have like other jobs and I'm like trying to get more jobs every day. Um, but someone's going to tell me that like I'm the reason inflation is happening. No, I'm not the reason inflation is happening. Inflation is happening because of like I don't know. Maybe it's because when I go to the grocery store, it's like $10 just to buy a bag of chips. And it's like at that point, I just learned to make my own chips. $3 tortillas, air fryer, cheese sauce. We're good. We don't even need Taco Bell. So anyway, all of that to say, that's why I'm eating this incredibly sad Bobo's great PB&J. Yeah, I could have made my own PB&J, but I just didn't. So anyway, Bayh-Dole. I should say that these are really good. Yeah. These are baked with me in mind, like me personally. And I appreciate that. So I don't know how relevant an explanation of why I feel gaslit by the economy and cannot afford fast food right now is relevant to the Bayh-Dole Act, but hey, whatever. So the Bayh-Dole Coalition. So what Bayh-Dole does is it helps. So basically, patenting is something you do to get to like claim ownership of an invention. Basically, like I'm not a patent expert, but like when you patent something, then other people can't patent it, so you can research it more and eventually turn it into like a product that you sell. So the other thing is, once you have a year between the time that you talk about your invention, like present it at a poster session or write a paper about it, you have a year to patent it. And if you don't patent it, someone else will patent it. So I guess like technology transfer makes this complicated because universities and research institutions are always coming up with so much stuff that could be patented. According to Drexel University, Bayh-Dole motivates universities to be involved in tech transfer by allowing universities to retain title to and actively license technologies. So it basically allows universities to take ownership of their work, which is actually really important because if industry steals your basically steals your research project, or doesn't steal it but co-opts it because they patented it before you did, then you lose your research directions. I actually attended a seminar on industrial policy hosted by a think tank in Washington, and I asked them, "What do you think about Bayh-Dole?" And I don't think they even knew what Bayh-Dole was. And I don't know, like, where is Bayh-Dole going? Here, let's see. Wait, let's Google. What is happening to Bayh-Dole? So the Biden-Harris administration is trying to reinterpret the Bayh-Dole Act to authorize. This is from IPWatchdog.com. So the Biden administration is trying to reinterpret the Bayh-Dole Act to authorize federal control over prices of inventions originating from universities. IPWatchdog.com says both sides agree. Undermining Bayh-Dole will have tragic consequences for innovation. Okay, so according to IP Watchdog, the Bayh-Dole Act was specifically designed to spur innovation and collaboration between our universities and the private sector. 40 years later, the results speak for themselves. In 1980, only 23 institutions had technology transfer options. Today, every single major research institution in the United States has a tech transfer option. The think tank that I used to work at, the Potomac Institute, it was created after basically the defunding of the Office of Technology Assessment, and the Office of Technology Assessment was defunded in like the 90s by Newt Gingrich because he thought the government was getting too big. So he just like closed a bunch of he was the Speaker of the House. I guess he just like kind of defunded, abolished. The article I read said abolished, technically defunded the OTA, which was actually part of the legislative branch, and it was like a science advisory for Congress. And so, if we had that, maybe this wouldn't. So that's why now you could say that Congress is kind of like missing its like science policy, an organization dedicated to science policy in Congress. So I guess the Bayh-Dole Act is a congressional act, but the Biden administration is going to override it with their executive thing, and I don't know what the time frame is for this. And so there were two ways that Bayh-Dole reformed previous patent legislation. It permitted nonprofit organizations and small business firm contractors to retain ownership of inventions made under contract in which they have acquired, provided that each invention is timely disclosed. I want to say this is from the Drexel article as well. This is me just like getting up to speed on Bayh-Dole because I hear about it every day and I have no idea what it is. Yeah, so it authorized federal agencies to grant exclusive licenses to inventions owned by the federal government. So when they say, and that's the part like that again, I just don't understand this. So like when they say owned by the federal government, do they mean like owned by the federal government through research at universities? Because the federal government, NIH, NSF, NASA, they all fund different research. There's a lot I don't understand. But when I asked the guy at the session I attended, I was like, "What do you think about Bayh-Dole?" I just typed in my question in Zoom and I like clicked the little thing so it popped up my question, and they actually read it and answered it. He was like, "Actually, he didn't seem as enthusiastic about Bayh-Dole as I thought he might be. So what does that mean? Maybe I think that on one hand, it's a good idea to have ways for universities to have promote tech transfer, but on the other hand, when our government gets so complicated that I can't even understand it after weeks of hearing about it, there's got to be a better way. That's what I wanted to talk about today, and I don't think I really succeeded in talking about that because honestly, this would have been a lot better had I had Taco Bell. But I don't want to create inflation by like shouldn't Taco Bell all companies are required by law to pay their employees for the work they do. If the labor costs at Taco Bell are prohibitively high, like I don't believe that at all. Cuz like think about like truly what is up with that? Like I don't believe that for 1 second. So if there's an economist watching this that wants to come on the Fancy Comma YouTube and talk about why fast food workers' wages like cause inflation, that would be incredible. I mean, I assume it's because there's like a lot of fast food workers, but they also don't get paid that much. So, can that really cause inflation? Like, I've heard that one driver of inflation is paying people more, but at the same time, it's kind of that's the very capitalist explanation of inflation. Is there a non capitalist explanation of inflation? Um, yeah. Because, like, think about like you're working in a research university, someone co-opts your invention, then you have to go work at Taco Bell, get paid like $10 an hour, and then someone says you're causing inflation. It's like you're probably not causing inflation. I'd love to know what you got out of this video. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our future videos. Take some time to check out the Bayh-Dole Coalition's website and see if you um, agree with Bayh-Dole, disagree with Bayh-Dole. One really interesting thing to me about the government is that it's 3 different branches. So when you work in Congress, the other 2 branches are like completely foreign to you. But then when you work in the other branches, then Congress is like the foreign one. And then it's also this like triangulation thing where it's like Congress can hate on the Supreme Court with the executive branch like together. And then like the judicial branch is kind of separate from both of them because none of those people are elected. So it's kind of like this weird thing of like I find that really weird because like do you find that really weird? But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you learned something. Um, I hope you think about the labor market next time you go to get fast food. For me, it's helped me a lot in saving money and not eating unhealthy food because every time I think of the fact that people say that fast food workers are creating inflation, it just makes me not want to get fast food because um, why would I want to contribute to that narrative? And it's also like incredibly capitalist to rely on people that get paid so little to bring you happiness every day, I realized. So that's my new thing about like not eating fast food. We'll see if I become like if I lose weight, but I think I will. Because like honestly, um, the way that our economy is, I think that we're just creating we're kind of we've always been divided as a nation, but now we're even more divided. And now we not only have politics, we also have this whole thing about like tipping and like, should we raise the minimum wage? Which I think we should raise the minimum wage because if you do the math, and I do get minimum wage when I'm tutoring, you can't live on minimum wage. There's just no way unless you work like 80 hours a week. So, so yeah, those are a bunch of different policy issues that you don't have to have any specialized understanding of the world to think about. And I think we should all get involved in these policy issues. So thanks for listening. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss these and have a wonderful rest of your day. And thanks for watching.